2020 vision, former Vice President Joe Biden hinting at his possible presidential plans.
Folks, I know I get criticized. I'm told I get criticized by the New Left. I have the most progressive record of anybody running for the United States, if anybody who would run. I didn't mean. With anybody who would run.
This coming as the Democratic field grows larger with New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand officially announcing her candidacy yesterday. Joining me now, Washington Examiner commentary writer Tiana Lowe. Tiana, good to see you. With Joe Biden in that slip, nobody's surprised that the guy's going to run.
I mean, Joe Biden gaffing his way into 2020 is peak Joe Biden, is it not?
No, I think that we've got peak Joe Biden sometime in the months ahead, quite frankly. But Tiana, go ahead. What do you make of the increasingly crowded field?
So right now, Democrats are going to have to choose their lanes. I think a problem with someone like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who I don't think anyone realized wasn't already officially running. I mean, what is her lane? What is she? Her angle is I'm a woman. I mean, that didn't really work for Hillary Clinton. And then you have someone like Senator Elizabeth Warren, who would have had a lot of gusto in 2016 because, you know, her political evolution is fairly genuine. She has been very pro break up the big banks, but without sounding quite as unhinged as Senator Bernie Sanders. But now sort of she's lost a bit of that momentum, and she's had to deal with the whole 1,024th Native American scandal. So it's just too impacted right now.
Tiana, I think it's so interesting that you say they had to pick their lanes, because I just dial tested a bunch of the candidates over the weekend, trying to understand who's resonating, who's not. So many of them are running on the same thing, Medicare for all. There's a couple who are pulling out and having different kinds of strategies, but there's a lot of crowding and a few that are standing out. Bernie being one that's standing out. Joe Biden stands out. Beto stands out. But who do you see as really coming across as something different? And then there's going to be a whole bunch of people fighting for the same folks.
So not necessarily that their candidacies are extremely viable, but Senator Amy Klobuchar has been wise to not back Medicare for all, because that is one of the few things that sort of differentiates her. She isn't necessarily the most sparkly candidate, but she could have that sort of blue wall appeal. And then even someone like Andrew Yang, who's really coming from the outside, he has the most wonky list of issues of any candidate in the race, as opposed to Beto, who did this Vanity Fair cover fluff piece, and they ask him about Medicare for all, and his answer is, well, maybe I support a buy-in, the Green New Deal. I support it in spirit. What does any of that even mean?
But he's smart, though, Tiana, to not get in the weeds with the actual details until you have some of these individuals falling by the wayside, because it's the fact that, and I've repeated it over and over again, the Bernie Sanders bill on Medicare for all, which was co-sponsored and supported by Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and Kirsten Gillibrand, it very clearly outlaws private insurance in this country. Yeah. So it's better for a Beto O'Rourke to come out and say, you know, I support something that is a single payer option, something like that, but I'm not getting into the details with this because it's a loser.
Oh, certainly. I mean, the Democrats in the Senate right now are being dragged so far to the left. I mean, the fact that every single Democrat running in 2020 who's in the Senate backed the Green New Deal, which is valued at $93 trillion in the first decade, and it's a non-binding resolution that no one knows how to pay for. I mean, this is something that will come back to haunt them, especially imagine any of them on a debate stage against President Trump with him talking about, you know, killing all the farting cows and creating a federal jobs guarantee.
Well, I would just add this. This is my personal opinion. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand was trying very early on to be the Me Too candidate, throwing Bill Clinton under the bus, saying he should have resigned over the Lewinsky scandal, despite being very close with the Clintons for years, and then throwing her squash partner, Senator Al Franken, under the bus as well. So she looks more like somebody who's disloyal at this point rather than somebody who's standing up for all women.
Especially when you see that staffer that she kept on after he was reportedly sexually harassing his subordinates.
Another 2020 candidate who has a busy weekend, Elizabeth Warren, the Massachusetts senator, kicking off a 3-state tour in Tennessee. She held a rally in Memphis where she spoke about her new plans for affordable housing and universal child care. She's called for increasing taxes on the ultra-rich. She wants a wealth tax, which is unconstitutional, to fund her campaign promises. Tiana, what do you make of this?
So this wealth tax wouldn't even come close to funding any of these progressive projects. I believe it's about $2 trillion in the first decade that it would make. Again, this is sort of the language that Warren has been using exemplifies sort of what she's done her entire career, which is be extremely punitive when it comes to the wealthy, not discussing this is a federal investment, this is how we pay it off. And I don't think that sort of anger and hostility towards business, especially right now when the economy is booming, will resonate in the same way that it would have in 2016.
Really quickly, Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen will give her State of the Homeland Security this morning, talking about the border battle. She's expected to push for more border security. This happening as detentions at the border are hitting an all-time high. On Sunday Morning Futures, Maria spoke to Senator Ron Johnson about the emergency at the southern border. Take a listen.
Characterize the emergency as you see it today.
So what we saw in 2014 is President Obama declared that a humanitarian crisis when 120,000 children and people coming in as family units across the border illegally and were apprehended. Last year, that number was 145,000. In the first 5 months of this year, 175,000 unaccompanied children, but now mainly people coming in as family units across the border illegally or presenting themselves at ports of entry claiming asylum. All we can do, Maria, is we can apprehend, we can process, and then we disperse. And these people, by and large, are staying in this country long term.
You still had 12 Republicans who voted essentially against the president's emergency declaration for more border funding. So what say you, Tiana?
Well, the difficulty is that this isn't about whether or that vote was not necessarily about whether or not there is a crisis at the southern border, which obviously there's an imminent threat if you just look at the apprehensions and if you do look at the overflow of drugs, specifically fentanyl. The issue for that was the constitutional precedent, and I think that that's one that any reasonable person could see in 2 years from now. Could a Democratic president use that precedent to mandate construction of solar panels for a Green New Deal? But it is interesting to see the effect of voters along the southern border, how there was this right-wing shift in 2018 in the midterms.
Right. Tiana, good to see you. Thank you so much. We covered a lot of ground. Tiana Lowe. We'll see you soon.